Hello, everybody. Today on the Shot Match podcast, you have me because my co-host has disappeared. I am Charmskull, and we're also joined by one of the biggest shit posters on Twitter. He goes by either Ian Miles Cheong or Still Gray. Hey,
Hey,
Ian.
happy to be here. How are you?
Lovely. It's nice to get an early day going.
Absolutely.
So you were really big when it came to the whole Gamergate situation that I knew of. You started off on the side
Yep.
of the game developers, right? Like the female game
Game
developers.
developers is not the proper way to say it, but
Okay.
yeah, I started on the anti-Gamergate side. I mean, here's the thing, when I was part of the anti side, the developers I talked to, the ones I tried to convince to oppose Gamergate, yeah, I did that. I was one of those guys, right? I was a propagandist. Uh, Many of them were secretly supportive of Gamergate. So a lot of that, talking to these people, they influenced me more than I probably influenced them at the time. I had my eyes pretty much closed. The people I was talking to, they were like an echo chamber, right? People like Zoe Quinn and so forth, and it was easy for me to fall in with them because they're all part of the game journalism circuit. Most game journalists oppose Gamergate, except for a very small handful. I won't name any of them. I don't want them to get into trouble. I don't want them to lose their jobs because they will. But yep, surprisingly, there's a very large contingent of developers and game journalists even who either don't speak up or they actually support Gamergate behind the scenes. They know that game journalists in general, the SJWs, which I'm referring to, control the narrative, and they basically bully and harass developers into doing what they want, ideologically speaking.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
I was on that side. Yeah, to answer your question.
yeah. So what was it that finally brought you to stop supporting the anti-gamer gators? Sorry.
It was a series of things. Mostly it was the suppression. It was a slow burn, right? But when you're part of the social justice cult, I call it a cult because it is a cult, and I'll probably make my own video about this. But it was a slow burn, and essentially you can't speak out of turn if you have an opinion that is divergent from what the narrative is. If someone says this game is sexist or this thing is racist, you cannot disagree with them. There is no room for healthy debate. It's not like in classical academia, the academics argue with each other on how the Romans use their marketplace, for example, and they will debate with each other and they'll have ideas and they'll have a lively discussion. But in the social justice circuit, you cannot have these kinds of disagreements. If someone says that something is problematic, then you have to believe their lived experience. Any sort of criticism is shot down as toxic. And so I've always been an opinionated person, so I didn't really fit in well with these guys, to be honest. But if they said something like there's one time they were railing against feminism, white feminism to be exact. They're all intersectional feminists, and they're talking about people like C.H. Summers and so on. And they said something about how white feminism only benefits white supremacy and all this nonsense, and they were basically tarring and feathering every woman, right? Every white woman who may consider herself a feminist. I thought that was really unfair, right? And I'll defend these people, the non-insane feminists, but I spoke out. And since then, I got on their kind of a shit list, and I had to sort of earn my way back in. There was another instance where they were calling BioShock Infinite, a game which they all loved for a while. A year later, they decided it was a misogynistic, racist game. I spoke out. I said, "You're taking the game out of context. You're not including all of the story elements. You're just you're picking and choosing, cherry picking what you want to see out of the game, and that's wrong. I want to start a debate about it." Well, that too got shot down, and it was a slow burn of things like this. Plus, them always speaking nonsense, right? You know how they get outraged about everything. Infinity War is Holocaust denial, things like that. They'll be saying stupid things, and you cannot speak out against them without being shot down. So I got fed up of it, and thankfully I had friends who were not crazy, who sort of pulled me out of it. They were like, "Ian, these people are nuts, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. They are nuts, and they are irritating me. And what's irritating is I can't speak out against them. So I decided to, because at the time I was virtue signaling quite a bit, and I was speaking out against gamers, right? Those entitled gamer nerds, just a typical narrative. And I issued an apology to them. I was like, well, you guys I wronged you guys. I said some bad things about you, and none of these things are actually true. I was just following a narrative, and I apologize. And they were eager to accept it. Sargon of Akkad made a video about me. He was one of the first people to actually accept my apology. He made a video about it, and I felt that was good. I started talking to people like Liz Finnegan. She worked at The Escapist. She's a great person, by the way. And we became friends. And I started getting DMs from the social justice warriors who I was friends with at the time, telling me it was not a good look to be speaking to people like Liz or Sargon or anyone else. I didn't like that, so I spoke out against them. And little did I know, like a day passes, and they're all tweeting about me, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of tweets about what a nasty, rotten human being I am. And I decided, you know what? Fuck you guys. I've always wanted to tell you to go fuck yourselves, and so I did. And since then, I've just been calling them out. I'm so sick of them. They bully people.
Yeah. I actually was kind of naive to Gamergate back in 2014 for a while until I had watched like a video of the top 10 most controversial YouTubers, and Sargon was on the list. I'm like, oh, they think he's controversial. Let me watch his videos, and I subscribed like right after watching the first video. And
Yeah,
that's how I
he's a
started
smart
to
guy.
learn. That's how I started to learn about Gamergate and stuff. And being someone who I guess technically is female, if you go by SJW standards, I'm cisgendered female, but I hate saying that.
I hate that. You're
so
either
stupid.
male or female. There's nothing else. Biology is a binary, and if you're intersex, you're still one. It's still
You still
part of that
identify
binary.
as one. Yeah.
Yeah, and beyond that, it's still male or female. You're not a third gender. There is no third gender. You're still male plus female. That's still part of the binary. That's what people don't get, is intersex people are part of the gender binary.
But
As are transsexual people. Yeah.
it's really funny because back in like, I want to say I was working at Nintendo at the time. This was like 4 years ago, right around all that time. And on the application to apply, they had an other for gender where you could write in what your gender was, even back then.
Oh Lord.
And it made no sense to me. And like, it's the same thing with being an enforcer at PAX. Like, they have you label what your pronouns that you want to go by. Well, here's the thing. How am I going to know what everyone wants their pronouns to be?
Yeah.
Like, I misgender people.
They wear
all
name
the time.
tags. They're like he/him.
I misgender people all the time. I just assume everyone's male on the internet until I hear otherwise. Or
Yeah.
until I see them. So, like...
You've got that internalized oppression going on, as Joshi would say.
Internalized depression. It's called, I've been on the internet since I was like 10. And so that means that I've been on the internet for 21 years. It is a calculated conclusion that any person that speaks on the internet is more than likely male, or they're female and just trying to hide themselves because of the fact that it's not internalized oppression. It's just, it's way easier to be neutral.
Yeah.
Thus, my usernames on everything are very neutral names. They're not very feminine, and that's because they don't need to be.
Yeah.
I don't care about being misgendered. I get called dude, bro.
It's not a big deal, yeah. If someone were to call me a she, I'd be like, okay, what's the problem? But
So-
I'm a man, so what would I know about being misgendered? Am I right, guys?
So it's okay if I start calling you Mrs. Ian Miles Chong now?
Oh my god.
No, I'm
please don't.
kidding. I'm kidding. That's gonna probably be the only thing that gets clipped from that, is me calling you that.
Yeah.
But no, I never understood it. I've never understood how people can just feel oppressed. I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter recently, and they were talking about oppression. And I was like, look, dude, in your entire lifetime, you have not been oppressed as much as the people that you were as much as people from like World War II. People in Russia, people in China.
People in third world countries.
Yeah, in third world countries.
Like, I know people
oppression
who are
happens.
actually oppressed. Yeah, I know people who are actually oppressed, like the Indians over here, right? Uh,
Yeah,
they don't have it good, right? The government's kind of shitty to them, right? They don't get the same benefits as pretty much everybody else. They were imported here as slaves by the British, right? And ever since then, they've been kind of an underclass. Like most of the prisons are full of Indians. All the lowest jobs are taken by Indians, like garbage collectors, sanitation engineers, and so on. But they're also doctors too. That's the interesting thing. They don't consider themselves victims, so they can pry themselves out from from the bottom. They don't have that victimhood mentality, but they are oppressed. There is no doubt they are oppressed. Historically, they are very oppressed people over here. And despite all these things, despite all these hardships and shortcomings, many of them become very, very successful. Most of the lawyers here where I live are Indians. So that's interesting, right? And it's the same with the Chinese. It's not like we had it all good back in the day. No, we weren't. We also imported the slaves by the British, but we don't hate the British for it. It's like, okay, it's something that happened, right? And not all colonial rule was bad either. A lot of it was good. Malaysia and Singapore wouldn't be good places if it wasn't for British infrastructure and management and all these things. So when people talk about colonialism ruining everything, I think they need to be more specific and maybe talk about Dutch colonialism as opposed to British colonialism, which isn't so bad. British were the first people to abolish slavery in 1834, way before the Americans did, way before anybody else did. They were fighting slave ships. They were fighting the Barbary pirates, right? So, but I digress. Point is, I know people who have faced actual oppression, who still face actual oppression, systemic oppression, and yet they don't bitch about it. I don't bitch about it. And to see some social justice warrior, some privileged upper middle class brat going on about how he or she is oppressed because someone used the wrong pronoun for them, refused to call them as they/them. Oh, we're all dying every day. No, you're not. You're stealing other people's oppression. You're trying to claim something that doesn't belong to you. Yes, there are actual transgender people who live in poverty who are oppressed. I will say that. But someone who has like a six-digit salary working at Google, feeling oppressed because someone refused to use their they/them pronoun. No, you're not oppressed. Someone must maybe being an asshole to you. That's it. There's a difference.
well, here's the problem with using multiple pronouns and multiple genders and stuff like that. Do you think that it's also probably diluting the whole idea of transitioning if people can just claim to be whatever gender? Like, the idea of transitioning is that you do not, like, a male doesn't feel like a male, and they, like, their entire life they felt like a female, or vice versa. And so they go through the process, which is agonizing and painful, and generally can have lots of downsides to it. And can, cause people who want to have kids not to be able to have kids. That's like one of the things that literally happens. So having people go, oh, well, I'm non-binary, and they just say that. Just saying that you are a gender, but not showing any gender characteristics.
Not actually doing anything. Yeah.
It seems like it's irrelevant. Like, if
it is, yeah.
If somebody's transitioning and they say, hey, I'm transitioning from a man to a woman, I will respect that person and call them she.
I do too. Some of my best friends are transgender people.
And like, but I don't understand. Like, if somebody comes up to me and I say, oh, she's very pretty, and they go, oh, well, she's transitioning. I'm like, they're transitioning. I'm like, yeah, that's why I called them by what they want to be called. Like, I'm respecting the fact that they are going through this entire process. Like, sometimes I feel fortunate when I have a friend who I went to high school with, who, when she was a he didn't understand what was going on. And then I straight up, like, a couple of years ago, he pinged me and he's like, hey, I'm going to, he's like, I have something to tell you. I'm like, are you transitioning to being a woman? He goes, how'd you know? I'm like, dude, I've known since high school. He goes, why didn't you tell me? Because it's not my place to tell you that I think you wanted to be a woman.
Yeah, that's fair. See, that's the thing. Like, some people will encourage it in people that perhaps don't need to transition, right? Like, a lot of teenagers are going through puberty. Some of them may be tomboys. Others may be really flamboyantly gay. and someone wrong will tell them, oh, you're actually trans, and so they think they're trans, but they're not really. They don't feel like they're female or male, right? They don't. If they're born a girl and they feel, you know, like they're a tomboy, and someone is telling, maybe they're even a lesbian, right? And someone's telling them, oh, you're actually a man. And so many of them are actually transitioning. A lot of teenagers are transitioning because they'll watch some YouTuber or some Instagrammer tell them that they're trans, and then afterwards they realize they're not actually trans, and many of them are detransitioning. There was this huge Atlantic article on this recently that caused a lot of controversy because a lot of trans advocates were opposed to it. But that's the thing that's actually happening. It's really unhealthy to tell these young kids that they're actually trans when they're still trying to find out who they are. So like your friend, I'm glad you didn't tell her that that she was trans, because she had to figure that out on her own, right? She can't be listening to people. A lot of people get bad advice and then they become suicidal when, like, let's say they go through the operation and they realize, oh no, I'm not actually transgender. I'm just a really butch woman. It's disheartening when they turn into a man and they can't undo it, right? You can't undo the process.
So just let everybody know who's watching. There's a link in the description to my Discord. If you pop in, you can ask questions there. Later on, in about an hour or so, we might be pulling some people in to actually have conversations with Ian and me. So don't forget, you can grab the link in the description. I forgot to say that at the beginning of the podcast. But no, so at my son's school, there's a little girl, not in his class, who I recently got told, by recently I mean before school ended, that I was to call her a boy.
Uh-huh.
By the way,
how old
she's
is she?
like 9.
She's too young to even.
Exactly.
She's not even had puberty. You can't do that.
No, it's so weird. Like, that the parents made that decision.
Oh, absolutely. That's all the parents' decision. The parents saw her playing with dolls one day or trucks, right?
Yeah,
whichever gender she actually is.
She was born a girl. You can
totally
tell
so
she's a girl.
They think she's a boy. Yeah, so so they probably saw her playing video games, right? Maybe she plays Fortnite or something. And they're like, "Oh, that's a boy's activity. You're a boy now?" It's so sad. It's really upsetting because they don't grow up to be balanced people. I'm not saying that because they're like, I don't think like transgender people are mentally ill or something. I'm saying that they're given the wrong information and then they'll never be secure in who they are as people until they're like in their 30s or something, because it's so hard. Like when you're a kid and somebody tells you that you're something, you believe it. You actually believe it. It's bad advice. You can impress upon children's minds that way, and it's really bad when parents try to live vicariously to their kids, or they want to use their kids as some sort of virtue signal, to show how progressive they are. They do something like that. It's no different from like hardcore fundamentalist Christian parents using their kids as like some virtue signal for how Christian they are. It's not good. It's not your kid is not a prop.
No, and I actually saw that, you saw that, like, I think it was J. Crew, they had, like, the I'm a Feminist 2 shirts for boys.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, man, that pissed me off so much, because literally, that those shirts are being purchased and put on those little boys to virtue signal to other parents, because kids don't understand what that means.
No, they don't. They have no idea. Like, what is gender to them? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Like, who cares? Like, they're all kids. Kids are gonna hit each other whether they're boys or girls. You have to teach them not to hit girls. You have to teach them not to do these things. You have to teach them to treat girls differently. That's how you have to treat boys, because boys will treat little girls just like little boys until they hit, like, puberty, and then they start to, get feelings towards girls and all that stuff. But speaking of treating people the same, there was an article that was written about you, a lazily written article, right? About how you effectively bullied somebody.
Yeah, it's a good article actually. It's on Twitchy. Those guys, they support me.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so Rachel Bloom, I remembered her name. If you don't know who Rachel Bloom is, she is the my sex junk, right? She
Right.
performed my sex junk on Bill Nye's show on Netflix. She's pretty well known for that. She released a cheat sheet yesterday. Uh, the cheat sheet is a cheat sheet on how to write women characters, female characters in fiction. And it's basically a checklist of social justice points. You know, if she's black, she has to be sexual because the black women aren't sexualized enough, stuff like that. And I tweeted out a really funny link. I mean, not a link, but a take on it, right? Uh, let me see if I can find it. Do you have the link? Because
I
kind of
put the
forgot.
link in the description. It's also in our
All right,
conversation, but it looks
I
like what
found
you
it.
said. Okay.
Yeah, so she tweeted the hashtag See Her campaign. It's seeher.com. Put together this awesome one sheet to be used in writers' rooms to help avoid bias when writing female characters. You don't have to be a dude to find this useful. Now, I'm sure she's a nice person and all. She means well, but this is nonsense. This is ridiculous. This is a way uh, uh, to clamp down on writers' freedoms and creative freedoms because you didn't write a character that was woke enough. You know that's the issue. So I quote tweeted her. I said, just let writers write the characters they want without giving them a useless sheet of check boxes to tick for diversity points. That was all it was. That's all my tweet was. But it went viral. Yeah. Because people saw that and they were irritated by this thing as well. Unfortunately, her tweet still has more likes and faves, obviously, because, she's a celebrity. But it's such a nonsensical thing. If I can read out some of the guidelines that it proposes. Uh, our mission, right? The Seahurst mission is to increase the percentage of accurate portrayals of women and girls in U.S. advertising and media by 20% by 2020, the 100th anniversary of the women winning the right to vote. Seaher is a movement by the Association of National Advertisers, the ANA, the largest marketing and advertising association in the US. Our membership includes 60 of the nation's leading marketers, representing more than 1,000 brands with a combined $50 billion in US ad spend. These guys are rich. This is woke corporatism at work here, right? It's corporations wanting to appear virtuous to the public. And the idea of accurate portrayal of women and girls, I mean, what does that mean? Is a prostitute not an accurate portrayal of prostitutes? That's what galls me about this whole accurate portrayal of women and girls, or even men and boys, is that they are actually effectively creating stereotypes. They're claiming to be fighting against stereotypes, and yet if you make a prostitute character like a hooker or whatever, Anita Sarkeesian or one of these other people will rail at you and say that this is not an accurate portrayal of women. What they're doing effectively, and I've spoken to sex workers about this, they don't like Anita Sarkeesian very much. What she's doing is she's erasing people like them. There are prostitutes and hookers and cam girls and whatever in the real world, and they deserve representation too. I mean, if your story demands that this character exists, right? It calls them into existence, then they should exist. It should be no one's place, much less a feminist's, to say, "Oh, you can't depict women as prostitutes. This is not a correct portrayal of women." That's stupid. You want to tell a story, the story has to write itself, so to speak. So the checklist itself is also pretty bad.
Oh
Right?
yeah, no, I read it. It's pretty toxic. Like it
Yeah.
is everything that I hate generally about female characters are the overgeneralization. You can't make them the bad guy unless they're way powerful than the good guy kind of thing. Because women can't be, taken as either the victim or the
Mm-hmm.
attacker.
Yep. They have to be the good guy.
They have to be the good guy, but they also can't be actually beaten by the bad guy, like in any
Yep.
sense of the word.
Mary Sue's.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
reason why a lot of people dislike the new Star Wars movies, because she's a Mary Sue. She can't die, right? She can never lose, and that's the way they wrote her, and they're pretty proud of it too. It's unlike Rogue One, where, well, she dies at the end. But yeah, with Rey, she's literally Mary Sue, and it's something that a lot of writers have criticized and even gotten flamed for criticizing. What's his name? I forget the guy's name. Landis, right? Max Landis, the screenwriter, pretty good writer. He wrote Bright.
Right. I love that
He's
movie.
kind of a woke guy. Yeah, he's kind of a woke guy, but he's also very realistic. He's a good writer. He's a really good writer, and he doesn't get enough credit for it from either the left or the right because his views are very much independent. He criticized Ray for being a Mary Sue, and all these feminist outlets, including Jezebel and Mary Sue, a website called Mary Sue, they trashed him. They're trying to destroy his reputation with slanderous rumors about the way he treats his the women who work with him. It's all nonsense, right? None of it's substantiated. And the guy makes a point. It's not an interesting character if you don't feel like there's any investment in it. You don't feel like you need to be emotionally invested in Ray to care about her because she's never gonna die. So why do you care?
Yeah.
And the checklist itself is, like you said, pretty bad. I mean, I can just read a couple of points here.
Go ahead.
Do your female characters significantly contribute to the plot? Why do they have to? Let's say you're making a movie like Moon, right? It's just one guy. The whole movie is about one guy. Why would you have any female characters, for that matter? In Alien, none of the male characters really contribute to the plot, right? The original Alien. I guess Hicks kind of does, but you could replace him with a female character, and it would still, it would just be Ripley who matters. Is it wrong for them to exclude male characters like that? I don't think so, right? So why would it be any different if it was just a male character? Does your female character's primarily plot contribution involve being a victim of violence or deciding whether or not to have a romantic or sexual relationship with the male hero? You can reverse that and be like, well, why does it matter? A lot of male characters are victims of violence. Look at Kill Bill, right? The only male characters in that movie are victims of violence. The only male characters in Alien are victims of violence. Aliens, again, same thing. What about Titanic? The only male characters in the movie are victims of violence, right? So, and they only exist, like the guy only exists to serve Rose, So how does this point make any sense? Another one, it's if you completely removed all of your female characters from the story, would it be inconsequential to the plot? Again, why does it matter why do you have to have female representation? The same thing goes with why do you have to have male representation? You can easily have a female-driven movie without any male characters, and it wouldn't matter. It's just a story of one character. Are any of your female characters over the age of 40? Why do they have to be? What if you're making a story about kids? Kids going on an adventure like Jumanji. Why do any of them have to be over 40? Well, I guess one guy has to, but...
Well, I mean, the reason why is because they're trying to make sure that the ladies who effectively made tons of money back when they were younger in acting can still make money.
Yeah,
guess what?
that's
There
the only
should
thing.
be a retirement age for like everything, including acting. Like, if they need an old person, cool. But I mean, you shouldn't be forcing an older character into a movie or episode. And there's some 40-year-old women who look younger than me.
Yeah.
Because, plastic surgery, great diets, and, actually having trainers and shit to help them out. So there are people that could play characters that I could never play if I decide to do acting. Just because of the way you look. It's not the character's actual age. It is how old or young does the actress look to be able to play those younger characters. Most TV shows where you see teenagers and stuff like that, they're mostly played by early to late 20-year-old actors. Every once in a while you'll get somebody who's a teenager, but those are very rare.
Yep. They just happen to be better actors.
Or they happen to fit the exact mark of what they wanted people to look like for the character.
like the kids in 13 Reasons, right? They're all actually kids. They're not in their 20s, so yeah, because they actually fit.
God, I'd hope so.
Could any of the following words describe your female character's personality attributes? Strong, intelligent, ambitious, charismatic, creative, reliable, successful, courageous, or confident? Why does it always have to be that? There are weak females. They do exist in real life, and in fiction, obviously they should. To have every single female character be strong, intelligent, ambitious, etc., etc., you're kind of making a cookie cutter character. You know, a Mary Sue again. Doesn't have to be like that. It can be a cowardly female character. What's wrong with that? Could your script pass the Bechdel test? Does it include at least two women talking about something other than a man? Again, Bechdel test is nonsense. Alien fails the Bechdel test. It really does.
Well, so does Solo.
Yeah.
That straight up does. The two female characters, quote unquote, the only thing, it's two female characters speaking about something other than a man. But Rogue One
also fails it, I think.
No, it doesn't, because there were two female characters who were speaking to each other about a revolution. And that was the main character and one of the generals.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's just a dumb test.
It is a really, really dumb test.
Yeah, it's so easy to fail it and so easy to pass it. Pornography, lesbian pornography it passes the Bechdel test. Does it mean that it's a good representation of women? Is there a range in body types among your female characters? Do any of your female characters have at least a disability? Why does this have to be a thing? Most people in real life don't really have disabilities. So why do we always need to have representation if the story, let's say it's about Marines, right? It's about Navy SEALs. Why would any of them have a disability? That wouldn't make any sense. That would be atrocious. Well, Jesus. A range of body types. So what? One of the Marines has to be really thick. Is that what's going on?
They need them some thick actresses because
God.
You know, if you are overweight and you are looking like you'd probably have a heart attack in the next 10 years, you are now the perfect body type, as long as you're also disabled and not white, and also you don't claim to be exactly female, you claim to be a mixed gendered person.
Yeah, and it's so bizarre that they're trying to force that into movies. I don't think most people want to see an obese person on screen. They're not attractive, and they're arguing that, we should have a fat Wonder Woman. What's wrong with the current Wonder Woman? She's fantastic. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's strong. That's what I get irritated about this. It's like, okay, you want a person who is effectively a slob to take on the role of someone who people should be aspiring to. You know, Wonder Woman is an aspirational character.
Like, there is, I believe, an X-Men character she was, but in her normal day-to-day life, she was like a skinny woman, and then when she went to go use her superpowers, she became like a giant blob. I wonder how they'd feel about that. Like, the superpower is being overweight.
Wow. They probably wouldn't like that very much.
Yeah, they'd probably think that that's pandering, and that's probably like being fattest or whatever, sizest.
Yeah, fattest, sizest. I love that.
I hate those isms.
And they're not real. They're not real. Like, ableist, not a real thing. Like, what the fuck even is that? Does the dialogue... Sorry.
I was gonna say, that's people who can actually walk and do stuff on their own. You know, that
How
is...
dare they?
We are
so ableist.
We are ableist to Ricky Berwick.
Oh.
That's kind of how it is. Like, that is...
Here's what I like about him, you know? He knows his disabilities, and he doesn't, like, play victim. You know,
Dude,
he doesn't act like a victim.
He gets his hustle on. Like, he makes more than
He's
most
good.
people that
I like him.
know.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. He's really smart. Kind of crazy, but really smart.
I won't say he's crazy, but he's really smart. And he's got a really wild sense of humor. That's probably what you mean by when you say he's crazy.
Well,
right?
yeah, I'm not meaning the
humor.
like physical disability of crazy. I'm meaning, like, you know, when you see somebody doing like ridiculous shit, you're like, oh god, that person's crazy.
Yeah. That's why I love Ricky. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play victim. And when I see someone like Ricky, I feel inspired in a way, because here's a guy who has a disability, a real physical disability, and he doesn't make himself into like someone that people should feel sorry for. Instead, he makes a living out of it. It's really great. And I compare him to all these other people who are perfectly able-bodied, they're of sound mind, well, arguably sound mind, and yet they're acting like they're the most oppressed people in the world. Meanwhile, they're making six figures. Like, come on, get off of it. Like, you guys are assholes. You're appropriating someone else's suffering by doing this. You're claiming to be to be suffering and victimized, and no one's victimizing you. You're victimizing yourself. This is a you problem, not a society problem. There's 3 more checkboxes, so I like reading these. They're just kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
Does the dialogue of the women of color tend to include more profanity and focus on more sexuality? Like, why does it have to? Why do black people have to cuss so much? It's or why must they be so super sexual? I can't tell if this is a bad thing or a good thing. It seems like it's the bad thing, right? Like you'd be thinking, oh, an over-sexualized Asian woman, isn't that a stereotype? Well, I guess they want it to be one. They want women of color to be sexualized in some way. But I guess they probably weren't thinking of Asians when they wrote this. They were probably thinking of African American women, because if they were thinking of Asians, they would think, oh, Asian women are exoticized. That's an actual issue, right? White society tends to exoticize Asian women as very sexual creatures, and they're really not. But the point is that that's a bad stereotype, and this list, because they don't want to say black women, they say women of color. They're also including Hispanics and Asians and so on, and it's just a very badly written list here.
You know what's really funny is I've always noticed that there are 2 types of Asian women in movies, and they're either the badass, like they're either like the assassin ninja style female, or they're really meek and quiet. And kind of cutesy, and they're kind of like, it's weird. It's weird that
you don't have a normal Asian woman. Yeah.
No. Because like normal, I guess it depends on what the person that's writing it sees as normal. But when I don't see females who are of those 2 varieties when I hang out with my friends. Yep. The Asian females that I know are just, they act like regular fucking people.
They are normal people, yeah.
Like, they don't act like super special. It's like they go to that one district in Japan where, like, all the Harajuku girls and stuff, like, hang out. The ones that are dressed really, like, wildly. And that's their only concept of Asian females. And they do that for, like, the whole region, even though that isn't the case. It's like taking a look at K-pop girls and assuming that that's how all Asian females act. They're really cutesy, like, you know, bubbly, happy. I know, yeah,
bubbly.
It's gross. Like, they should just treat all, like, I cuss a lot. And does that matter? No. Like,
no,
it shouldn't.
It's just you.
You should just
You don't reflect on other females.
Exactly. Yeah. You should write characters for how you want the characters to be portrayed. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's one thing like it's like one thing like the whole controversy with Scarlett Johansson. I know you're thinking which one? The one the Ghost in the Shell one?
Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. She's essentially a raceless character in the books and in the movie. In the anime,
Yeah,
in anime, yeah. And even the series, she's a raceless character. She doesn't consider herself Japanese, really. She doesn't.
So, I mean, it's just funny because everyone got really upset by it, and everyone gets upset by the idea that one person can play another person.
It's ridiculous because the machine itself is, it has a Caucasian appearance, right? It doesn't have a Japanese appearance, not necessarily. It's a sex bot. She's got a face of a sex bot.
Yeah, effectively.
So, that's the original anime. She's got the face of a sex bot. She even sees like other models of herself, and she's like, "Wow, like those are not real people, but she's a real person, but she's got their face." So she is. The whole thing is about coming to grips with her identity. Like her exterior self isn't who she is internally. She doesn't know who she is. That's the whole point of Ghost in the Shell. She's a ghost living inside of a shell, right?
Exactly. And it's just the fact that effectively all there is just hate and anger towards different characters, different styles of acting, and the fact that women are now going to be put, if this becomes serious and some people start using this like script idea, like checklist thing, it's going to actually maybe screw over more actresses than it helps.
Yep.
Because they're
It
going
does.
they're going to be trying to check all the boxes, and if one of the boxes aren't checked, they'll feel like their virtue signaling wasn't virtue enough.
Yeah. There's two more left. One is fine. The first one is over the course of your story arc, does your female character evolve and show personal growth? See, that's something I agree with. I think every character should show personal growth, otherwise they're two-dimensional. But the last one actually bugs me. It says, do your female characters have careers where they are in leadership roles or in science and technology fields? Why does it have to be science and technology? You don't see women in the military field. You don't see women being represented in uh, blue collar fields. So why does it have to be science and technology? Why do they have to have leadership roles? This is the thing that bothers me about the whole gender gap is they don't care about the fact that most men do menial jobs. Construction is mostly men. Military, mostly men. When a woman excels in the military, they don't really say anything about it. It's like they don't care. They only want women to be in leadership roles where they're sitting behind a desk and telling other people how to do things. That's the only thing feminists care about. Modern feminists, in any case. It's clearly about superiority. They think that women should be in charge and that men should be doing the grunt work because, we got the muscles, right?
Man, I do grunt work at my day job. That's
Yeah.
effectively most
It's
of
like
my
they're not
job.
they're not celebrating women who do grunt work, right? They're not celebrating women in positions like, nurses, for example. Nurses don't get enough love. Paramedics, a lot of women are paramedics. They don't get enough love. This is the sort of thing that feminism should be celebrating. Women in working menial jobs. They're the people who are putting society together, keeping it running, right? Just like the men who are doing it are keeping it running, and everybody deserves credit for that. You don't need to be in leadership positions. If you're in a leadership position, whether you're a man or a woman, you're elevated to that position because you work hard or something. Hopefully that's the case and it's not nepotism. But this idea that women should only be represented in leadership positions in science and technology fields, that's unnecessary. I mean, women are not really into science and technology in general. They prefer
Speak for
more
yourself.
nurturing. Yeah.
I am nurturing, but I also literally am in a science technology field.
You are,
and,
yeah. You're like an odd person out, yeah. But
And like,
generally speaking, a lot of women don't like that, right?
it was funny at my last job. I made more than my male counterpart, and he was like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? I'm like, I asked for this. Like, when they hired me, I was like, I won't make any less than this. And they're like, got it. And they gave it to me. It's called, you
Asserting
think you deserve a raise. You feel that you deserve a raise. Ask for it. What's the worst they're going to do? Say no? Fine. Then earn it.
That's the whole origin of the gender gap, is that women are not very assertive in general, right? I'm not speaking about you, but women in general are not very assertive when it comes to asking for pay. And that's the reason why they generally get paid less in certain fields than their male counterparts. But people have come to realize that if women actually ask for a raise, they will get the raise. Because bosses don't really discriminate in terms of gender. There's no real discrimination going on. It's more like people are not asking for a raise, so they don't get one. If a man doesn't ask for a raise, he's not going to get one either. So what's the problem? I think the focus that feminism has been pushing itself against is wrong, right? It should, instead of saying that employers must be raising the salaries of women, I don't think that helps. I don't think that helps the women at all. I think that feminism should be empowering women to ask for those raises. That would be the best way to do it. Lean in, right? Lean the fuck in and ask for the raise. Demand it, right? Because you are worth it. That's what women should be doing. That's what girls should be taught in schools, in colleges. People should be teaching them how to assert themselves rather than to play the victim all the time. They're not being victimized by society. They're victimizing themselves, allowing themselves to be trod upon. And now, people are trying to create these legislations, these laws to basically nanny women, because women are apparently too weak to be able to do it on their own. And I don't like that approach at all. It's a nanny state approach.
So
More laws are bad.
Speaking of laws, how do you feel about Article 13 being pushed back? I mean,
I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, me too. Like, I know, like I said before, this doesn't, like, Article 13 and stuff doesn't affect us directly, but it does affect us indirectly, because generally whatever the EU votes on and approves affects the entire internet, because there's such a large majority of people in the European Union. It's just easier to make a blanket change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like my memes. I like the GIFs. I like being able to record a video about something and not have it immediately get taken down because it has literally anyone else's material in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the point is to be able to use clips and to be able to use articles. Like, if Article 13 in September does go through, it, without changes or with very minor changes, like, it's effectively going to destroy YouTube.
It will destroy more than YouTube. It will destroy Twitter, and you might think, oh, that's pretty good, right? Destroying Twitter and Facebook, that's funny. No, it's going to destroy Google. And yeah, Google maybe deserves it, but it's nice to say, oh yeah, that's hilarious, Google got destroyed. But it also took down the internet, so are you really celebrating that? Like, what is wrong with people, right? It's no, it's going to destroy the internet as we know it. Everything's going to be basically gated off or run by corporations. You won't have any more independently generated content. All your favorite YouTubers, PewDiePie, Critical, anybody that you watch, they won't be streaming anymore. They won't be putting out YouTube videos. YouTube won't exist for them anymore. If YouTube does exist, it's only going to have ads on it. It's going to only have Vivo on it. And people who can afford these licenses. Everybody else, they're screwed. There's not going to be any more Tim Pool. This podcast won't exist. My channel won't exist. Nothing's going to exist. You won't be able to link to websites either because there's a link tax. That's a different one. This is a slightly different issue, but it's part of Article 13 as well. And all of this because corporations, right? European corporations want to protect their investments. They are the music industry in Europe is actually backing this. They're one of the major backers of this legislation because they're upset that people are listening to their music on YouTube. They're upset about sites like Bandcamp taking up all their revenue. They're upset about stuff like Tidal and iTunes. They don't like iTunes at all. They hate iTunes. They hate all these services because these services basically offer something that forces them to lower their prices. They want to be the only people on the market. They want to be like back in the good old days when they used to sell CDs, right? CDs containing their music for like $20. Fuck that. So yeah, they're big backers of taking down the whole internet. If people can get entertainment from YouTube, well, take it down, right? They're only allowed to watch our stuff. It's bad.
It's really funny because I remember back when Kazaa and stuff like that were a big thing and like downloading songs illegally, and then they're like, oh, well, if people just want the songs, why don't we just sell them the songs? And that's been... I know they keep saying it's a negative that they only sell them song by song, but sometimes bands put out really shit songs. And you don't want to have to buy an entire album and get like 50% of shit songs and only get like 30% of okay songs, and the other 20% are the really, really good ones that people actually want to listen to.
That's right, yeah.
Hey, my co-host is finally here.
Yay.
Hey, Future.
Hello.
Hey, Future. What's up?
Not too bad, not too bad. I just woke up. I'm sorry about that.
We were in the middle of talking about Article 13.
Article 13.
Do you not know what that is?
I haven't really been paying attention to any articles or anything.
So no. Article 13 is a law. It's a law that the EU was trying to put in saying that, hey, copyrighted material, even if it's fair use.
Yes. I've heard about that. Yes,
that's the one.
So they just recently, like this week, it got shot down for their secret negotiations and stuff. So that's really great, which means
that's good.
It gets held off until September. It isn't dead yet. It's just held off until September when it's going to go through a public editing and change. So let's hope they add fair use into it.
How about they just, throw it in the trash, because that's, where it should be.
That'd be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
There are some useful things. Article, I think it's 11 is the one about the links, and that one should get thrown in the trash. Like that
needs to be thrown in the trash.
But Article 13, I think could be fine if they also added the fair use clause.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's just blatantly dumb because a lot of people use those memes and stuff like that just for funny use, and a lot of it. Sorry, what?
Oh, I was gonna say it only indirectly affects memes. So what it is just saying that, hey, if somebody creates something like a piece of art, they should get the revenue from it. But it should be as long as it's not transformative. If it is fair use, then if it falls within the fair use umbrella, it shouldn't be affected by it. Which is why I'm saying adding a fair use clause would prevent such things like memes.
Well, that would be the existing laws.
But that's
how the existing laws are.
But they're not EU laws. Most of those laws are
national laws. National laws.
And the EU has no laws for that, so they're trying to create their own laws because even though the EU itself is not a legal, I don't believe it's a legal governing body because none of the people are voted in.
They're not elected.
Exactly. Like the EU is the most.
That's why the EU needs to be destroyed.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree.
Straight up, the EU needs to be
dismantled.
Gone. It needs to be
it's bad.
Dismantled. Just fuck it.
I cannot wait to see how Brexit turns out because that's going to be the biggest step, and then I think.
Oh no, it's a shit show.
I think Italy's going to go next.
I was basically the only person in my class that actually supported Brexit because I thought I thought it was a bad idea.
About Brexit. There was something yesterday that happened. Theresa May basically passed it, but with the lowest requirements. So basically, EU has the upper hand. Like they're not part of the EU, but they're still part of the EU. It's really disgusting. Yeah. All the Brexit supporters that I know, they're really pissed off about it. They're like, yeah, this is lost. You know, the only people who can actually get Brexit pushed in would be like Jeremy Corbyn. But he panders to his party. He's the only one in the Labour Party who supports Brexit. Everybody else in his party is a pro-EU, is a Remainer, right? So he has to go with them whether they like it or not. I mean, whether he likes it or not. So there's no way for them to have Brexit. You know, the only option right now is a third party like UKIP or something.
Right.
If I was English, I would join UKIP. Like
I would join a UKIP as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so like right now they're attempting a soft takeover of UKIP. By they I mean Count Dankula, Paul Joseph Watson, and Sargon, and a couple other people.
Your former boss, right?
Yeah, my former boss. Yeah. He's just doing it for the publicity.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
He only does. He does everything.
I'm glad he's doing it though. It's a good cause, right? It's a good cause. He's got followers. He's got a lot of support. I think if everybody who is unhappy with the EU were to join UKIP, and that's a lot of people. I'm talking millions of people here, right?
Right.
They could actually have a chance to pass Brexit because the Tory government, at least in the current administration, they're not going to do it. The Labour Party isn't going to do it because they're all fucking SJWs. They're all socialists. So you actually do need a third party, and UKIP has a strong chance of, once it's taken over, the soft takeover happens, it will no longer be a far-right party, because it actually is a far-right party. Make no mistake about that. It's not going to be a far-right party anymore, right? It's going to be more of a nationalist party, which is fine.
It's going to be more a centrist than anything else.
Like a center-right or centrist nationalist party, and that's fine. I think I support that fully.
It's funny, I got into an argument with somebody who was trying to tell me that UKIP, they were Nazis. And I was like, you do understand that the Nazis started off as socialists, right? And it made them so angry because nobody seems to ever realize that the Nazis were the National Socialist Party. National Socialist German Workers' Party.
Workers' Party.
Well, of course, because they don't want to talk about that because it goes against any part of their narrative.
It's not the same as Soviet socialism, right, or Soviet communism. It's a different kind of socialism, but it's still it originates from Marxism. It's still the same thing. They don't call themselves Marxists because the Bolsheviks basically claimed the Marxist label.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a fascist socialism, right? And all socialism is fascist. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Right? Theirs is just more of a hardline thing where they do a little bit of capitalism, like state capitalism. but it's still Marxism. It's still socialism. It's just a different form of it, different variations. They don't adhere to the free market the way that capitalists do. So they hated the Jew so much because the Jew is all about free market, and because they're controlling the free market, not because they wanted to, not because it was a conspiracy to, but because of history. History basically forced them into the position of bankers and jewelers. That's not the fault of the Jews. They weren't allowed to get any other jobs, right? They were historically oppressed people. So to blame them, to scapegoat them for the economy, that's a really stupid thing to do. You basically made that happen. By you, I mean the Nazis.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a guy, I forget his name, but he is the kind of like the founder of Nazism. He's a socialist. He's a socialist academic. It's a Marxist academic.
Yeah.
They just use his version of socialism as opposed to Bolshevism.
You know, it's funny that the socialist Nazi party hated the communists because they're effectively the same thing, but they didn't seem to realize that. Because communism is a form of socialism.
They're just different parties using the same ideologies, very similar ideologies. One is more nationalist based, whereas the communists were more globalist, right? They wanted to create an international worldwide workers' revolution. That was their plan. So they wouldn't be Germans anymore, and the nationalists weren't having it. That's why a lot of people supported the Nazis, because they're afraid of Germany losing its national identity. And at this point, it kind of has lost its national identity. So, they were kind of there were legitimate fears for them to have.
Well, they were so against globalization that they didn't, want people to be a part of their culture. They wanted to be a singularity culture, keep their culture the way that it is.
Yeah.
Hey,
like if there's
wait. Thank you, Bjor, for the donation of $1.01. Thank you so very much.
Another thing is that I don't know if you ever heard, but there used to be a Nazi camp in Chile that was running all the way up through the 80s, and it's weird. I actually read about this on, there was an article, and then I seen the guy talking about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it's fucking weird because a lot of the people there are still very much Nazis there.
Wow.
Like they still have a Nazi ideology. Like they're still believing that, kind of like the Fourth Reich stuff. Yeah. But it's open to the public now. And they actually had a hospital where they would actually take like Chilean boys from villages and stuff like that and do experiments on them all the way up to...
Is this the one with all the twins?
What's that?
Is this the village of all the twins in it? Like there's like so many twins there because Mengele went there?
Yes. I don't remember what the village is called, but yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about that and I was like, fuck, really?
Yeah, the Nazis ran the place and they basically experimented on the people there.
Yeah.
But the people there are like fine with it. It was not like, they didn't cut people up, right? It's more like they were doing genetic experimentation. And because obviously, if they started doing like the butchery that they conducted in the the concentration camps, the government would have allowed it. But they're happy to take the Nazi money, the Nazi gold, and just have them run the peaceful experiments, I guess. And yeah, they produced a lot of twins.
Yeah.
So weird.
It was a very weird town. It's very weird, and when you go there, like it looks very beautiful. By the way, like if you look at it looks gorgeous. You got it like mountains surrounding the village, and everything. But when you go into the village, it's all German. They're like wearing lederhosens. They have German flags up, and just all that, and like everything that you see for buildings is all German made. It's so fucking weird when you're in the middle of Chile and when you can't speak Spanish in there because nobody knows how to speak Spanish. They all speak German.
Yeah,
exactly.
A little part of Germany that got trapped in the 1940s.
Yeah, it literally looks like you're in the 1940s there.
It's funny. I just realized that this is the most worldly podcast we've had because you don't know this, Future, but Ian is actually from Malaysia.
Yeah. I read up on
Oh good, you did your research.
Because I was actually when you told me his name, I was like, I don't really know who this person is. And then when I did a little bit of research, I'm like, I know who this person is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's you and I would say that you and I have started to become friends, right, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely.
I met him through Bunty King, and actually,
Yeah.
I should probably ask you Bunty King's question. Now
Yeah.
that I remember it, he asked if you gain weight every single time you speak about politics.
That's my response.
He said it a little meaner, but of course, clearly, I don't actually speak the way he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, it was funny. During a Discord call last night, I was like, hey, you got any questions for Ian for tomorrow? And he was like, yeah, ask him why he's so fat. Ask him if he gains weight.
Because I eat a lot. I'm actually losing weight. Yeah,
oh, that's good.
Good. I mean, he knows this. He's just
yeah.
ribbing me. But yeah.
He just likes to mess with you.
Calls everybody fat. Yeah.
He doesn't call me fat, but maybe it's because I'm a woman.
Maybe it's because you're a woman, yeah. But he calls every guy fat.
So, I actually have a couple of questions from you from one of my admins. He wanted me to ask you, what do you think of Saudi Arabia?
I think it's a bad place that can be good. It's got a... I hate using the term progressive, but progressive is a good way to describe this guy. New prince, right? He is making a lot of new laws. He's liberating the... basically making it a lot more liberal. Allowing women to drive, allowing women to go to sports events, and that's a good move for Saudi Arabia.
Women can leave the house without getting their husband's or father's permissions one day.
Yeah, eventually, which I think won't be a very long time, honestly, because most women in Saudi Arabia use the internet already. They are pretty woke to these sort of things, right? I think it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of years rather than decades to see real social change. A lot of the old hardliners are dying. They're dying off.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia could be a good place. It could be a good place. I'm hopeful for it. I don't want to be one of those pessimists who's like, oh, Saudi Arabia shit.
He's blowing up my DMs because he lives in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, see, I mean, like he's probably pretty progressive himself, so yeah, I know a couple of Saudi people, and they're fine. They're normal people, It's like just not everybody's a fucking Wahhabist.
And the second question he actually had was, what is your dream car?
My dream car, ooh, probably a Dodge Challenger.
Interesting choice.
Interesting.
Yeah, I drive the hell out of that. It's a 2018 performance muscle car. Fuck yeah. Beautiful.
Mine is... I will have to get back to you. Brain fart. I think I drank too much yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. Like, I'm fuzzy still.
It's not even expensive. Is it what, $36,000?
He just reminded me what my favorite car was because I've told him enough. It's an Aston Martin Vantage.
Nice.
Yes. If I could drive, which I can't because my depth perception is non-existent.
Oh.
Oh, look, I think Black Jesus is in our chat. Hey, BJ.
I have a question for you, like, because I did do a little bit of research and stuff like that, and what was the whole Gamergate scandal? Can you like put us back through all that?
Yeah.
We just talked about.
We talked about
Did
it.
you? Oh, fuck.
Yeah, we talked about it, but I'll just give you a very quick rundown. Essentially, people were not very happy with the way that games journalists were treating their customers or their readers, talking down to them, colluding with certain independent developers to promote a narrative, social justice stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so people call for ethics in games journalism, and this happened when people were censored en masse. They're trying to talk about a subject.
Right.
Some developer was being it was some drama, right? I'm not even going to mention the details because that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
People are trying to have a conversation about this, and they were censored on Reddit, on Twitter, not Twitter, but like other places, right? 4chan, all the gaming forums, not allowed to talk about it. And then a series of articles come out called "Gamers Are Over," right? Gamers are dead. And the idea is that game developers need to cater to casual people who don't identify as gamers, and that gamers are a toxic culture. They're full of misogynists.
Yeah, I remember that article. Yeah.
Right? People are upset by this. People are like, well, we just want to play video games. Why are you attacking us? We want you to cover video game news. Why are you calling me a sexist for this? Why am I a homophobe suddenly? Why am I a racist? and this narrative gets pushed that gamers are evil people, they're evil bigots. So Gamergate started because of that. Gamers were opposed to it, and Adam Baldwin actually called it #Gamergate. He's the guy who coined this whole thing. Adam Baldwin from Firefly, right?
Right.
And Full Metal Jacket and a whole bunch of other shows. Great guy. So he coined it, and that's how Gamergate happened. And every time some game journalists would, collude or maybe lie about a topic, like say someone is not a social justice warrior, right? A developer like Tim Soray decides that he's an egalitarian, he's not a feminist. All these game journalists attacked him. They forced him to issue an apology. It's disgusting, right? They're forcing him to make an apology because he's not a feminist. That's part of Gamergate. That's a reason why it existed for so long. And it doesn't really exist anymore. Gamergate supporters don't talk about Gamergate, right? But they will say, yeah, this is why Gamergate happened. It's game journalists who use Gamergate now as a boogeyman. They will say, oh, this person's a Gamergate, or this is our Gamergate-style tactics. Elon Musk, for instance, was speaking out against the lying news media, right? The fake news media, about how they lied about his company. And all these journalists are like, oh, Elon Musk's Gamergate is basically Gamergate. This is a Gamergate tactics. Everything is fucking Gamergate these days,
Right.
You call out the media, you're Gamergate. Sargon's Gamergate, I'm Gamergate. Everything's fucking Gamergate these days. Trump is Gamergate. They love that. It only goes back to Trump.
Right. Yeah.
That's all it is. And that's what Gamergate is.
Yeah, and for me, I was at the time, this was like when I was first started getting into politics, because I was 19 and this started happening around 2012-ish to 2014. So I was young, and this is because of Gamergate. That's what actually started to get me into politics, because I was actually a huge gamer back in the day. And I remember people talking about Anita Sarkeesian at that time, because Anita Sarkeesian was very much in the news and stuff like that. And I remember her I think she was on Global News or whatever, and she was talking about sexism in video games, and she's talking about how men are these toxic human beings in games that treat everybody like shit. And I went, that's not true. I mean, I played Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is fucking toxic. I will agree with that.
Sure.
But typically when a girl joins the lobby, nobody really gives a shit. It's it's
commonplace.
Yeah. And I think that's what gaming is in 90% of the time. Is there a couple people that will probably, be a little fucking disgusting about it? Yeah. But I mean, that's just fucking anything, really. You're on Facebook, somebody's going to say hey, you have nice tits or whatever. It's just somebody being a dick. But the majority of gamers are very, very accepting of everybody from any culture, any place.
Yep. It's a very equalizing space.
Because I think it's more about your skill than what your gender or race is, to be honest.
That's right. It's all about it. Gaming is the most equalizing sport there is. Women can participate without having huge muscles, right?
Yeah.
I know many gamers who are better shots than I am at Rainbow Six Siege, for example.
That's funny that you bring that up, because I was actually in ESL for Rainbow Six Siege at the time when it first came out. And I will agree with you. I played with a girl that was fucking ridiculously good, but she didn't want to join my ESL team because she was more into just playing casually. But she was just she was better than me. I will agree with that. She was better than me.
In general, I noticed that women will, the ones who are really good, they can be extremely good at a game, right?
Yeah.
But they stick to casual. They don't play, they won't join ranked, or if they do join ranked, it's they're only the most hardcore of them will do it.
Yeah. And there's no problem with that, though.
No, it's no problem. It's just, that's just the case. I might be a decent shot, but I'm not ever gonna go pro or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even if I was really good at it, I don't think I would.
Right. I'm
not that good. So it's a moot point.
Yeah. With the whole Gamergate stuff, did you ever get to talk to someone like Anita, or did you just write articles about her?
No, I was part of the little crew. I was part of Crash Override. It was always good. I don't think I spoke to Anita, but I did speak to other people. All the big names you see, on Twitter.
Yeah.
The ones who are always starting some shit. Yeah, I talked to these people privately.
And so what was it like talking to those people privately, and then kind of looking back at it now, with your whole view changed of everything that happened? Like, what was it like back at that time?
Some of them are genuine people, right?
Yeah.
Like, but many of them are ideologues. They get very easy. They're easy to offend. You can't say the right thing. You have to be guarded around them. You can't express an opinion that you think they might not like. Like I had, I had a bunch of SJW friends. They're still SJWs, but privately I could express grievances, with these people. Like let's say I found a situation fishy. Like someone was claiming that so-and-so person's a sexual predator, or so-and-so person did something sexist or misogynistic. I could privately say, okay, I don't think that what they did was actually sexist or misogynistic, right? I could say that. But publicly, I could not say it, and neither could they. That's a frustrating thing about being an SJW. You have to toe the line, or you shut up, right? You can't speak out of turn. And when you see someone speaking out of turn, and it does happen every so often, they get shunned. Right? They get thrown out. They get kicked out of the club.
Yeah, it's very tribalistic the way that the left is right now. It's very much like you're either with us or you're against us. There's no like, okay, we're a little bit more left than you, but we can still, talk to you. No, it's like you have to be as left as us, or you're alt-right. That's basically how it is.
That's basically it. Yeah.
Like for me, I'm somebody who's center left and very libertarian. Yeah. So my views are that economically, I'm very conservative. I believe in capitalism, all that stuff. But when it comes to social values, I'm very liberal on that.
Yeah.
And because of my liberal views, I'm very much center. Like, okay, let's say you want a law saying that men can't go in these places because some rapes happened or whatever. I'm like, okay, well then whenever I'm at the bar, women can't be there because I keep getting groped. So you'll have to kind of like do the same thing, because you can't just kick one person out of a group, because then you have to go, okay, well then whenever I'm in this place, you have to get kicked out as well. And I kind of just do that just to kind of say like, hey, what you're saying is kind of fucked up, so let's just not do that. We'll find a different way to do that, not just the extreme part of it.
That's right.
See, I'm center right myself, so I'm more of a fiscal conservative than I am like socially. Like, I believe that things like Social Security in the United States shouldn't exist, because they take a lot more money than the people get back at the end, like when they retire and stuff like that.
It's not worth it.
It'd be better if that money did get taken out, it should just be taken out and put like right into like a savings account for the person, because a lot of that money is never even seen by the people, and by the time I'm old enough to retire, I'm never gonna see that money. So of course I don't believe in it.
Right.
I do believe in a smaller government, and I do believe that a lot of things that like abortion and stuff like that, whereas I personally would never get one. And I don't really think of a time that would be useful to someone else that might be, and I don't want to stop their chance to do that, because it's not my right to oppose upon someone else my opinions, as long as they're not physically hurting a living, breathing human being. Those are the only times I think that laws that put people in jail should actually exist, like murder, rape, like actual
theft.
Yeah, theft.
Theft is pretty bad. Yeah.
Theft is a big one.
I'd say death is probably up there with, the rest of them.
Yeah.
Don't take something that doesn't belong to you.
The thing is that people are like, oh, well, they should let all the people out who, had drug crimes. Well, it depends. Did they violently attack on someone?
Right.
Were they selling to minors? Because I still think that should
that should be illegal. It'd be like if a pharmacist were to sell cough syrup to minors, knowing full well that they're gonna make some tussin, right?
Exactly.
Don't fucking do that. It's irresponsible.
I think that there are some social responsibilities that people should have to kids, but like in the state I live in, the city that I live in, they implemented a thing called the soda tax, and effectively what it does is any sugary drink. Any drink that has sugar or high fructose corn syrup gets an additional tax, and it's about 22 cents a can of soda, which, by the way, is a lot of money. And I read today that they earned $1 million more dollars than they predicted in the first 3 months of the tax being.
That's a good tax.
And surprisingly, the tax the reason why I don't support the tax is because they don't have any provable thing on where the money is going to. They're like,
yeah, that's the issue. Right? Taxation is theft. You know, it's a good idea to to raise the price of something that's clearly harmful. Like sugary drinks are harmful; they are toxic. But where's the money going? Why are you taking my money? You know, isn't it my money to spend in the first place? Like, why are you charging me? I think, you know, on the one hand, the status in me is like, okay, yeah, this is a good tax. You know, it's healthy and it's helping people. But on the other hand, the libertarian in me is like, well, what did you do to deserve my money? It's my money. It's mine to spend.
Do you know what do you know what they said they were spending the tax money on? Educating children on how to eat better. That's the parents' job. Yeah,
it should be the parents' job, not the government's job.
Yeah.
But I think I understand it. I understand why they're doing that, because parents are not doing their jobs, right? They're not doing their jobs, and
most
fat children, there's obese. Yeah, there's obese kids. They're going to be a burden on society one day, right? And they're seeing the long-term effects of generation obesity, right? Generational obesity. That's going to be a big problem in 10, 20 years. All these fat people walking around, 500 pounds overweight, and that's going to be the new normal. Disgusting, right? It's not only unsightly, it's also unhealthy. And they're not only unhealthy, all these people are going to be a drain on the economy. They're not going to get jobs. They're going to be lazy and fat and slovenly, and they're going to be requiring medical attention 24/7 because they can't get off their fat butts.
Right.
So, if anyone who's watching right now, all three of you, thank you, currently have any questions that you would like to ask any one of the three of us, it's cool. You can ask him either in the chat or through the Discord. If you want to come in and talk to us, now's the time, because we're about 45 minutes until the end, so I want to give a chance for anybody who wants to speak to get a chance. If you do want to speak, go ahead and hop into the general section in my Discord, and I'll pull you in. So
you asked me what my dream car was earlier.
Yeah.
That's a decent car, but I'm thinking I want the Lexus LC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be like my actual dream car. Like the Dodge, I can actually afford it now, so I'm not going out and buying it. But Lexus LC, I can't afford that. That's like too rich for my blood. But I would like to own it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Such a nice car. Yeah. It looks like a dagger. You guys should look at it. It looks like a really sleek dagger. So beautiful.
Oh, I've been asked, what is the LC?
It's a performance car. It's like a coupe, a 2-seater.
Which model? Sorry, which model?
Yeah, the 2018 LC. There's the LC 500. Yeah, that's what you want to look up.
There you go, Dominic. You
beautiful.
Happy now?
Such a beautiful car.
There was something that actually happened to me. It was actually yesterday, and I was gonna talk about it, and then I slept, and then I was late. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, but no problem.
I was actually on Facebook, and I don't go on Facebook very often because it's overly political, and everybody's got their own opinions, and I don't really like it very much. But one of my friends actually posted a video of a girl talking about the pink tax. So basically she would say bringing up two razors and saying, why are these different? They're the same.
And buy the male one.
What's that?
Buy the male one.
Yeah.
If you think they're the same, buy the male one. But the difference is the female one has aloe vera on it. That's why it costs more.
Yeah. Also, the pink one is also not even the same brand as the male brand that they brought up. Which was another thing as well. So, and then they're saying, oh, well, they're the same size too, but you could see in the packaging that the girl's packaging is actually larger than the male one. So that's another one as well.
Yep.
And then they're saying, well, women have to pay more for renting a vehicle as well.
Mm-hmm. And is that true? I don't think that's true. I think men's insurance costs more than women's. Because men are more likely to drive recklessly when you're like 20 to 35. The statistics show that that men get into car accidents more often than women, right? So the premiums for men are actually higher than women. Why is no one talking about this gap?
Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, that's because Because feminists only like things that are applied to them, not other people.
Yeah.
But because I actually brought this up as well, like the insurance thing. I'm like, well, if you believe in the pink tax, then shouldn't there be a blue tax with males insurance? Because
Exactly.
I'm
What about
paying
the
because I paid $2,500 a year on my insurance on my vehicle, which is an '87 GMC. I used to be paying $3,200 for my Mustang that I had.
yeah.
So I got rid of that and I got an '87 Chevy truck. And then my insurance dropped drastically, but I still, somebody who's a girl actually owns a brand new Ford like Mustang and is only paying, I think she's paying $1,800 and she's the same age as me.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
what's up with that?
Do you want to know how much I pay in my insurance?
How much?
$0 because I don't drive.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It makes me really bad at shooters too, my eyes. So just to let you know, it is weird that even in a video game, I can't tell like how far someone is away from me. So I throw stuff at like either way too far or way too close. Yeah, I hit walls.
Yeah.
I shoot people, and I'm like, I'm usually surprised when I actually kill someone. So when we were playing that game
perception doesn't exist.
Yeah. So when we were playing that game against Bunty, I was like, every single time I killed him, I was like, how? How? I'm really bad at this game, and I'm bad because of my eyes, and also because women tend, for the most part, to have a slow reaction time in video games. And that's
also
something.
In real life.
Well, yeah,
like,
definitely
women,
in real life.
Yeah.
Women have lower spatial reasoning than men. I'm not saying women are stupid or that they're retarded, right?
Yeah.
But literally, women's brains are smaller because they don't have little spatial bits that men have. Like, we use it for hunting. Right, we evolved as hunters.
Women are more capable of doing multiple tasks simultaneously, whereas a man can do
good organizers.
Single tasks very, very well. They can do one task well, where a woman can multitask better.
Like, I cannot multitask for shit. It just gets me flustered.
Yeah, no. When I first started Twitch streaming, that was probably the worst experience that I ever had because you had to pay attention to the chat, you had to pay attention to the game, and then I eventually got better at it, but at the beginning, I couldn't do it. Like, I would play like a match or whatever, and then I'd read the chat, and there'd be like 50 messages I had to go through just to talk to everybody. I'm like, I feel awful. I got better at it though.
Yeah.
Still not the greatest at it. People still get mad at me about that.
And keep in mind that I'm just making like a generalization, right? Some women are actually shitty at multitasking. They can actually be good at single focus things like the.
All of these things are generalizations, like
it's just average. We're going by averages, and like most women will be, in generally speaking, they have bad spatial reasoning compared to men. Right?
I mean I've been multitasking this entire conversation, looking up articles, responding to people on Discord, responding to people.
Yeah,
like and actually talking to you guys and eating food simultaneously.
Yeah, I've only been talking to you guys and looking at cars since you brought it up.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I'm disappointed in you. You didn't retweet the actual the actual thing, so none of your fans are actually coming in.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
The only people watching are people the 3 people who like me.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Have you guys watched the new Sargon video? The one where he's talking
what's
about...
it about?
I can't remember. I was like,
let's see, is it the Red Course video?
The Red Cortez, yes.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
It's on my list. It's actually really good. He talks about how the way that socialism is now is that it's pushing for a Marxist and communistic attitude, and he's talking about it. He brings up evidence for it. It's actually like, fuck, really. And it kind of makes a lot of sense with the way how progressives are and the way that their ideology is consistently getting more radical.
Yeah, they're talking about an end to civility. That's the latest push. And into kindness, right? They're saying that you do not owe anyone your kindness, and that's a horribly toxic view. Horribly toxic view. A lot of liberals I know are speaking out against this. That's why there's the walk away movement that's happening right now. A lot of Democrats are walking away from the Democratic Party, walking away from the left because they see themselves on the center now, right? Not necessarily center right, but on the center. because the left is just gotten way too toxic. They're talking all about dismantling systems of oppression, and what that means is that they are dismantling the police systems. They want to get rid of government. They want to get rid of and replace it their own government. They want to get rid of profit. That's the weirdest one.
Yeah, well, because they think that profit is oppressive.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
they're not getting it. But they're more than happy to buy that fucking lipstick, the one that Okito was wearing.
Yeah. I mean, is money oppressive? I could see it. I mean, there would be arguments for it. I could see it, but the way that they're arguing, it could be. If you're breathing on me, I feel pretty oppressed.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think the lack of money is more oppressive than having money. Money you can earn.
Yeah.
Money is something that you can acquire, something you can use, share,
that's what I mean. Like, it can be argued that if you had lack of money, you are oppressed. You could argue that, and
no,
I would.
If you have lack of money, it is generally because you're lazy and you didn't make an effort in life. It's generally because you don't budget. It's generally because you made your own decisions and you're paying for your own consequences. Normally, the reason why somebody doesn't have money is either they're not working, and sure, there are people who are disabled, and we should have ways to assist the disabled, but those should be state by state and not, nationwide. So I don't think that the way like my state deals with people who are disabled should be the same way that somewhere like Illinois deals with it.
Yeah.
Because I do believe in states' rights over federal rights. But that's just my personal opinion. Very libertarian I know. But,
Good. Welcome to the club.
I actually got to meet Ron Paul when I was pregnant with my son.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I was doing the march to end the Fed. And it was really cool. And I wanted to vote for his son so bad. I was actually... So I'm part... And I might get hate someday for this, but I am part of the Republican National Committee.
Good.
Oh, Trump supporter, that's it. You're out.
I don't care. By the way, 9 times out of 10, they just send you leaflets begging you for money. That is it. Like, one day I will take a picture of one of these, but like they'll send you census forms, and at the bottom of the census form they're like, hey, can you send this back with 20, 30, 40, $500? Like, Jesus. So they're like, those things that they do are scams, but because of that I am able to go to the Republican National Convention. I'm able to do a bunch of other things because I've been a part of it for so long. I was actually the delegate for Rand Paul in my county. So when he dropped out, I was so pissed because there was such a good chance that he could have gotten the votes over Trump. There was a lot of people who could have gotten the votes over Trump if they had stayed in, but they all bowed out really early, which is really sad.
Rand Paul is a really good runner. Wish he'd run.
I wish he would have stuck running.
Running, yeah. You can see he ran and then he quit, yeah.
Yeah.
The police are driving by my apartment. They heard me talking about Republicans.
They heard you.
Living in a very
Don't
liberal
worry, they're
city.
Republicans too. Most cops are Republicans.
Living in a very liberal city can be kind of scary sometimes when I speak my opinions out in the world. Yeah. I'm like, who's gonna find me? Who's gonna punch me?
It's getting pretty bad with our education system in Canada. Is that it's starting to get very progressive. It really is, because I actually in my
progressive.
I kind of guess so. Not really, but in our schools and stuff like that, if you had an LA teacher, which my LA teacher was very, very, very progressive, if you spouted an opinion that she didn't like, she could kick you out of the class.
Disgusting.
So I actually, because of me being, I think I was actually a little bit more right-leaning, so I did clash with her ideologically a lot. And she was talking about Black Lives Matter and how it's a great group, and I went, well, not really, when they're rioting and beating up people in the streets just on the basis of color of their skin. They're pretty racist, and
Yeah.
She actually kicked me out of the class for that and actually sent me to the principal's office for that.
Wow.
Yeah, I almost got detention because of that, because apparently my view was racist of an attack on.
How is it racist? Holy shit.
Well, because I went against their ideology.
That's so crazy.
Because I said that Black Lives Matter was a racist group on the basis of the way that a lot of their chants are.
That's nuts.
So my son's school, because I have my 9-year-old son. Back in February in the United States, they have Black History Month. His school did Black Lives Matter Month. It was so awkward having to hear him explain to me oppression, having to explain to me privilege, and then having to explain to him what was incorrect about all of the statements that were said.
Yeah.
And it was so awkward. And it wasn't the school's fault, it was the school district's fault. So it was the city's fault, because the city is the one that made the decision to change that up, and the schools just have to go along with it. And it's just really awkward to have to deal with stuff like that. Again, the drama of living in a very liberal city means that you have to be prepared to deal with all of that kind of stuff. If I could afford it, I would send him to a private school.
Yeah.
There are some nice private schools around here. They just cost a lot of money. Which is unfortunate. Yeah. And I'm not going to send him to a charter school because most of them are shit. Yeah. Let's just be real.
I think that's how a lot of the progressives are, the way that they are, is on the basis of the way that the education system is that a lot of people aren't doing the fact checking that in the educational systems, especially in university as well, where you do have classes like gender studies and liberal arts or whatever, and where a lot of it is very, very misguided and very misled based on the fact of people's opinions and their ideology, and not the fact of what's actually right and wrong. So instead of allowing a child to make up their mind about what side of politics they want to be a part of, whether it be the right, left, or center, they're actually being told through education what side they should be on, and mainly it's left. They have to be left, or they're kicked out of a class. So they have to be part of the group. And I think that's the disgusting part about the educational system, the way that it's going to be. And with a lot of the liberals making big strides to have progressive attitudes within today's culture.
Yeah. That's really what's happening. Disgusting.
It is disgusting. It is very disgusting. I mean, if the right was doing that as well, I would be extremely pissed off. I don't like that, because it's brainwashing child.
Yeah, you should, exactly. Brainwashing.
It's exactly what's happening. It's just brainwashing through education, because when you go to school, you're told as a kid you're going to school to learn. So when you get told, oh, I'm going to school to learn, mostly everything that you already have it planning in your head that everything that you learn is going to be needed in life, and everything's got to be true because it's school, right? It's an education. But in reality, like after I got out of school and then I started doing my own research, and like even when I was in class, in that liberal class, with my liberal LA teacher, I was back checking everything that she said, and I would always come back and say like, hey, you're wrong about this, or like she could be right. There's a couple times where I said that she was right, but there's a lot of the stuff that she said she was very, very wrong. And she actually made us make a essay about Trump. And
what? Wow.
Yeah. And because I made a post, actually, like I made an essay defending Trump at the time. I don't defend Trump now. I think he's a very bad president, but I think he's going to be very forgettable in the next couple of years. In all honesty, if he doesn't make it again, I think he's going to be very forgettable. But at the time, he's doing good things and he's doing bad things. I mean, he's a president, but in all honesty, I think maybe within the next couple of presidents, people won't look back on Trump at all. He'll just be a blip on the map, to be honest. Just be like, oh, that's a president that we had. That's it. But
you really think so?
I really think so, to be honest.
Honestly, I don't think so. Trust me. Like,
I don't think that. I think he's a historical arsonist, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
He's gonna be in the history books, and for multiple reasons. It's not just gonna be because he's the first reality TV star to become president, or the first, you know, or the first business mogul to become president. It's going to be because of whatever changes happen within the next like 2 years plus the next so be real. Unless the Democrats can come out with somebody who's a heavy hitter, he's going to be there for another 4 years.
Yeah, he's getting 8 years.
There's no way
around
around
it. Well, in all
it.
honesty, if liberals wanted to win, they would have just chose Bernie Sanders.
No, they wouldn't have, because, to be honest, socialism won't win in the United States.
Well, actually, Bernie Sanders is not a socialist.
Actually, he is.
He's not a socialist. He's like
he's not a socialist.
He
He's
calls
a
himself
social
a
democrat.
democratic socialist, and he means it in sort of a different way, but he's not a Marxist. The guy's actually a capitalist. Yeah.
He is capitalist. That's why a lot of people liked him, was that his views on social ideology is very liberal, but he's actually very, very conservative when it comes to economics. That's why a lot of liberals liked him, and a lot of people wanted to vote for him. But then the fact is that the Democratic Party wanted to choose identity politics over ideological politics, so they chose fucking Hillary Clinton, and they lost because nobody liked Hillary Clinton.
I believe that Bernie Sanders might actually be too old to run again.
He's too old, yeah.
He's too old now, but I think he could have won against Trump. I think he would have won.
Against Trump,
I would have voted for Trump. I would have voted for Bernie Sanders, in all honesty. I would have voted for him.
Well, if you could, you damn Canadian.
Yeah, well, I couldn't have, but if I lived in the States, I would have voted for him.
But let's be real, like, Trump is probably just biding his time until after the next election, once he gets elected for his final 4 years. Just like every other president, he's going to make whatever big change he was planning to do initially. So because of the fact that he's not going to have to campaign again for another 4 years. Now, let's hope that one of those changes aren't trying to abolish the whole 2 terms thing, because I really don't want more than 2 terms.
He's gonna do it, man.
Yeah,
if he does,
that is the only worry, and that will cause like an actual war within the country. Like that's
so bad.
Yeah.
I hope he does it just for the salt, dude. I hope he does it just for the salt.
Yeah, but okay, so just imagine like him doing that could be taken as the first step towards our country becoming authoritarian.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That is literally playing into the hands of the people.
It would be very unpopular if he does that. So that's
it's going against what the founding fathers wanted. Yeah. That's why they had the 2 terms.
No, the 2 terms actually was set after World War II.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because they didn't want FDR.
Because FDR had 3 terms.
Yeah.
And he didn't want. He, after that, pushed for there to be a term limit himself.
Yeah.
So the thing is that they didn't know how many terms people should have. They didn't know anything about that. Like, the founding fathers would probably be kind of confused if they saw the world today. They would be confused for multiple reasons. One being the fact that women have the right to vote.
Yep.
Yeah.
One
but
being,
they'll deal with it.
Yeah, like it's quite interesting because everyone says, "Oh, the founding fathers would roll in their graves." Dude, they've been doing that. If they could, they've been doing that.
They've been doing it for ages.
What
about the slaves? You know, they had slaves back then, and they're like, "Wait, what? Slaves? There are no more slaves now?"
Well, just imagine when they have to learn about the multiple genders that there are, and they have to use they and them.
We actually talked about that too. You missed out.
Oh, did we? Fuck.
You missed out. Yeah.
I love that conversation.
Honestly,
I'm gonna have
think
to listen back.
The slave thing, I think they'd be okay with it. Like the founding fathers, if they would have moved to the present day, they'd be like, okay, so that happened, right? They're pretty liberally minded people, but you bring them to multiple gender stuff, they'll be like, what? Get the fuck out of here. This is not America.
Yeah.
Make America great again, am I right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that the real problem with all of it is that I don't want for the extreme left to be proven right by Trump.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's the only
by
thing.
having their beliefs proven right, like them thinking he's gonna become authoritarian.
Right.
He's very like pro gay rights and pro trans rights, so it's really weird when people say that he's against that stuff. He's not racist. He's just scared of what he sees happening currently in Europe.
Germany. Germany is probably the worst one.
Exactly.
So it's less
a
of
fair thing.
Sweden's also a really bad one as well. Sweden's pretty bad.
Yeah, depends on where you go, but
we know somebody in Sweden. He tries to tell
Malmo.
us it's not that bad.
Malmo's pretty bad. There's no-go zones.
Yeah, it's bad when the police has no-go zones where they can't go in because it's just too damn dangerous.
Like,
and when it's that bad, then
yeah, like journalists try to go there to the no-go zone, and the police say, "We advise you against going in here. We can't follow you in.
Yeah,
they will attack us on sight."
If you have no-go zones, then obviously something's not working.
Yeah.
But no, let's do the no borders thing.
Yeah.
I'm very for borders and stuff like that. That's probably like the most conservative stance that I have. And it's not really conservative, but it's just more common sense. Just the fact that if you were to have open borders, if you were to have open borders, who would allow certain people to come in?
You know
who
what's
wouldn't?
interesting? Canada and the United States for a long time had open borders. Now it's only now that last I checked, it was only open like halfway. Like you can get into Canada from the United States without a passport. You just can't leave Canada without a passport.
Yeah.
As an American,
that's news to me. I've never heard about that. Usually, you'd have to get a passport.
No, so when I was 19, so this was about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I went to Canada. I've never had a passport. Never, and I didn't go there illegally.
Interesting.
Like it used to be that Canada and the United States had a completely open border with each other, and people could go either way as long as you had, your state or city credentials, like with our driver's license and stuff like that. So as long as you had some basic identification, you didn't need to have a passport to cross the country lines. And then I gotta say, I want to say it was probably like 10 or so years. It was a couple years after I went to Canada that they closed that down.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because my entire good 19 years of my life, I had always heard about people just going to Canada, and then I'd be like, well, what about your passport? They're like, oh, you don't need a passport to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Not from the United States, at least. It was just an open border between our two countries, which is weird when you think about the fact that our country is so avid against open borders now, but we used to have them at least with one country.
Right.
And I'm really pissed off at the whole Antifa members doxing ICE agents. That's
some bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
And then sending that information to WikiLeaks, which is not good.
No, it's not.
It's
disgusting.
Because that means it's going to spread.
Antifa is a fucking terrorist organization. I don't care what anybody else says. It's a terrorist. Yeah, isn't it labeled as a terrorist organization?
They did. The DHS and the FBI call it a terrorist organization because they are responsible for a lot of terrorism. It is terrorism. It's political terrorism. That's what terrorism is. God. Isn't it the liberal media that still tries to defend them? Like, oh, Antifa is this great movement. Yeah, they're calling it anti-fascist.
Yeah.
Come on, they're not fucking anti-fascist.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of pricks.
They are fascist.
Yes, they are.
They are fascist. That's one of the things I used to watch quite a bit. Have you seen I don't know if you guys watch Steven Crowder. I watch Steven Crowder every once in a while, but he did one where he actually infiltrated like an Antifa group, and like they were passing him knives and stuff like that, and they were talking about how they had
I remember
guns.
that. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if this is real or not, but this is fucking weird. And like how they have like roll calls and stuff like that, and they have knives and ice picks on them, and like that's fucking weird. It's really, really weird.
So I had an interaction once. This was earlier this year with Antifa directly with some members. because I take the bus to and from work, and when I was working at my last job, I would have to pass the big college that's in my city.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a table set up, and there was a couple of guys who had their faces covered. You couldn't see their skin tone because they had gloves on and everything like that. And there was one white guy just sitting there trying to shout to people to get them to come over, to give them flyers to go to like a meeting or something for Antifa.
Right.
And I just kept walking. And the guy started shouting at me and, you know, telling me I was a fascist and like started spitting at me. And I was like, I'm going to continue walking because if I stop and interact with him, all that's going to happen is I'm going to prove in his crazy mind that he's correct, and I might get beat up. So I'm just going to keep walking and pretend like this didn't even happen. But yeah, that was scarily interesting. Like, it's not fun. And like, at 12 years old, I went to the WTO protests in Seattle.
Right.
I have seen when a protest turns to a riot. I've been shot by rubber bullets. I've had beanbags hit me. I've had pepper spray in my eyes, and I've been fearful of my life. I will never do that to my own child, but it's one of those things where it shaped me to understand what truly what it is to see a protest go wrong.
Right.
Because that's really what happened. It didn't start off as a riot. It started off as a very, very peaceful protest, and then some guys who were wearing all black in the back started damaging buildings, which got the police to effectively crack down on everyone. And the problem is that's all that Antifa are, is they are the guys in black in the back causing all the problems. And the problem is now is that a lot of the politically ideology based protests, like even the one today that happened in Chicago, they shut down a freaking highway because of it.
Right.
Because they're protesting gun laws. And whereas, yes, I do believe the gun should be harder to get, at least slightly, because, you know, fearful to send my kid to school and have him get shot. I think that this could be done better through legislation. And I think that, I mean, first things first, maybe we should just abolish the ability to have lobbyists in the United States. Like, get the corporations out of the government, then maybe then we can have laws that don't sway either way based upon the winds of change, depending on which corporation has the most money.
The way that I see, like, I know I'm probably getting into a little bit deeper territory, but the way that I see, like, school shootings and stuff like that is not the parents' fault that the reason why the kid got the gun is because they are too lenient on the way that kids get the gun. That's my opinion, is that the only reason why, because for me, like, I have guns in my house, and when I was, like, feeling suicidal and stuff like that, my dad hid the fucking keys, and I still don't even know where he has the keys now, but like he hid the keys away from me because he knew that I was going through a very, very deep depression. And so
it's a good parent.
Yeah. So if your kid is probably getting bullied at school, and whether you do, you know, or don't know, why would you have a key laying around or guns laying around your house? Like, it's
be a responsible parent.
Exactly. Yeah. So in turn, whenever I hear a school shooting, they're blaming the gun, and I'm like, no, I would blame the parent, because that's the only reason why that the gun ever got in the hands of that child, is because the parent allowed them to. Whether it voluntarily or involuntarily. They should, in fact, the way that I would do it is I would enforce laws to actually have, you know, guns actually, you know, locked away. I would enforce that law, that if you have guns and stuff like that, and if they aren't locked away, like whether somebody would just check up on it or somebody, whatever, if somebody's seen that or whatever, they should be enforced.
Agreed.
That's my opinion. Most people will hate me for that one, but I blame the parents on that one.
Oh, most of the time it is the parents' fault for a lot of these issues.
A lot of the laws, okay, like there are a lot of laws preventing crazy people from buying guns. The problem is they're not enforced. The NRA supports these laws. That's the thing. The people like to cry about, oh, we need laws about this and this and this and this and this, and they keep implementing new laws, but none of it's ever enforced, right? NRA wants to enforce these laws. That's why the NRA exists. Like if I lived in the United States, I would join the NRA in a heartbeat. They are campaigning for these laws to actually be actively enforced, so that you can prevent mass shootings. I mean, in the past few mass shootings that happened, the people who got those guns got so illegally. They got the guns illegally, or they got it in a way that they shouldn't have been able to get, right? Like the one shooter in Texas, the guy who was former Air Force, he was discharged because he beat up his wife. Legally, he should not have been able to own a gun. Right, and he wasn't able to, but because the whoever was at the Air Force, the clerk or whatever, the receptionist, did not put his name in the registry. So when he went to a gun store and bought a gun, it did not flag him. He should have actually been flagged when they did the background check. Right, somebody fucked up.
Yeah,
that's the big issue.
Well, then those laws need to be enforced too, and the way that I would see, like, the way that I would do gun laws in the U.S. is that I would probably do them the same way that Canada laws has them. Like, I mean, Canada still has, like, shootings and stuff like that. Not mass shootings like the
not
U.S.,
mass shootings, but regular shootings.
Yeah, and a lot of them are from semi-automatic rifles, which are owned illegally by people from the black market. People will still buy things that they want, whether it's legal or not. That's how people were smoking pot for the longest time. It's illegal. But they still got it. It's not like it's hard either.
You can ban murder. Hey, and murder still happens. So what? We need
exactly.
Murder?
Exactly. Like
we need to have 100% surveillance in every single person to ensure that all the laws are followed. Nobody will be thieving or stealing or raping or killing. Just live in a surveillance society. That's perfect. Yeah. And that's not going to work because people are still going to kill, right? They're going to find a way. Right. Or they won't care that they're being surveilled. Oh, so we need mind control. Then we need mind control. That's what the left wants to do.
Basically. Isn't that what all freaking communists want to do? Is mind control the masses?
Yeah, leftists and fascists.
Yeah.
I love that. They want to control society.
Yeah.
Well, the only way to really control society, if anyone here has read 1984, is through oppression. Oppression is the easiest way to control people, because once everyone's oppressed, and then you can just give them like little bits of hope, that way they're like, oh, well, the government is the only thing I should trust, and they'll give me the hope that I need, even though you don't realize they're also the person oppressing you. So it's been about 2 hours. I really want to thank you, Ian, for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Future, I will shout at you more frequently.
Being late.
More frequently to make sure that that you remember. Because we only do this once a month, it is easier to forget. So this video will be up, so people will be able to watch it after the fact, and I'll tweet it. I'll
have to watch the beginning of it because I want to see what you guys were talking about, or if you guys were just sitting there talking about me being late.
No, that was like a millisecond. I said you disappeared.
I feel bad about that. I was sleeping. I was tired. Tired boy.
It's all right.
So Ian, I'll probably play some Siege with you later. Future.
Right.
I'll shout at you later. And thank you to the people who have stayed and watched the whole thing. Again, if you guys want to watch it later, it will be on my channel. Ian's links are in the description. You can go follow him on Twitter, which everyone should, because he pisses off people and it's hilarious.
Follow me on YouTube, please.
Oh, I was about to say that. Follow his YouTube. He does some pretty good hot takes on gaming, especially. You can follow Future Nightmare, and you can follow him on Twitch. His link is also in the description, and of course, as always, all of my links are always in the description. Thank you guys for coming, and have a great day.
Welcome. All right, bye.